and welcome back to another lyrical breakdown with me, your lady friend Bonnie. Yeah, so welcome back. For those of you who have never watched one of these before, I'm no expert, but I'm going to talk about, I talk about different rap songs. I kind of go through it and let you guys know my opinions of the songs, because the artist, it's just me. There's no artist here. There's no Puff Daddy. There's nobody else here, just me. So I'm going to tell you what I think it is. And until they do the same thing, then I'm going to keep doing this. So yes, welcome to this lovely, crazy show. So yeah, let's get into this right away. I'm excited. Let's get going. So this week, I wanted to do something. This is, a song that I chose to do this week. I know it may not be the most like lyrically profound, whatever, but it tells a story. And I just finished watching Unsolved on Netflix, which is about the Tupac and Biggie murders, and how it is still unsolved, as the title lets you know. It was an all right show. If you're interested, you can go check it out, or not, whatever you choose to do. So I wanted to do something that kind of like tied in to that. I was still feeling kind of like I was still feeling like a little sentimental. And I've already done a Biggie song. I've already done a Tupac song. So who's left? How's about not Tupac. How's about Puff Daddy? So that's who I wanted to do. And I mean, yeah, and he's a great guy, and he was like BFFs, hardcore with Biggie. So yeah, so I'm doing his song Coming Home, that was featuring Skylar Grey. This came off of his album Last Train to Paris, which came out in November 2010. So it's still like old enough, but still like new enough at the same time. I guess not like that old. I guess 8 years is kind of old, but it's not as old as some of the other stuff I do. So it's still like relatively new. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's go check it out. Let's have some listens. Inevitable prolong. Another day, another dawn. Come on, just tell Keisha. All right, so the song basically opens up with like this beautiful, lovely hook with the lovely Skylar Grey, who is like on every rapper's, nice songs, or not even nice songs, but like is just like a lovely voice on like a lot of rappers' songs, I guess. So let's get into this. So I'm not going to go into like who she like necessarily wrote this song for, or kind of some of like the background stuff about this. But I'm just going to talk about the song itself. That's what I do here. So we have, like I said, Skylar Grey, and the hook is, I'm coming home, tell the world I'm coming home, let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday, I know my kingdom awaits, and they've forgiven my mistakes, I'm coming home, tell the world I'm coming home. So it's about coming home. So, and like there's like several senses and like ways to describe the feeling of coming home. Like, maybe you've been, or you're a college kid and you're coming back home for like, the first time in a while, you're seeing your family, or you're coming back from war, or you're coming back from the hospital, or there's like a million different reasons why you would need to be like coming home. So yeah, I mean, if you were a missing person and you're coming home, like, like this is, like anything like that, like it's just like a nice feeling to like have that like family and that home and that kind of like that warm sensation that you're supposed to get when you're at home, right? Because, home is where the heart is, or, lots of other things that we're going to find out a little bit. So basically, maybe I think like Puff Daddy was kind of wanted to use this because he was feeling a little bit lost and he needed to kind of go back to where he belongs. And I think that he was clearly dealing with some struggles and with some issues. And he's kind of a little bit more at ease, a little bit more at peace with all of that and with himself. And so he's able to like come home and like see the world again, and I think that people too are often like scared or embarrassed to like go back home after like whatever happened. So I think that like maybe like that's why, like, you know, it's like a difficult thing almost to kind of like go back, but like everyone's just wants to see you again, you know, usually when you like walk into like your house and with your family and everything else. So I mean, it's a nice feeling. Um, so he has to kind of go back to go forward a little bit, I think, with this song as well. Um, he's letting his past struggles wash away, basically, you know, what I've just said. The kingdom awaits, and like he's kind of like the king of his castle, so he's kind of like the king, he's the head of his household, I was thinking of. But it also made me think of like, you know, your kingdom come, like the heavenly kingdom. So I think that he's kind of like referring to, because he says, well, this she says, um, so my I know my kingdom awaits. So either, you know, he's the top, and he's kind of like, you know, either not, he's not fulfilling his like role as king necessarily, and he knows it's waiting for him, that throne is just waiting for him to just come and like, you know, for him to sit in it, I guess. But I think it also is saying that like heaven is gonna wait, like, you know, he's not ready to go back there, or not to go back, but to go there, I guess. Unless, you know, I'm not sure, maybe Puffy died and came back, I don't know. But yeah, anyways, that's what I was thinking. Maybe a little bit more spiritual. And again, I think that he's at peace with himself and he's forgiven his mistakes. And so has like everybody. And, you know, then everybody just kind of believes in him. And I think that through this song, he's telling the world that he's back. Like he's ready to like come back with a vengeance. And like, to be fair, like, I think that a lot of people like maybe discredit him or like give him like a bad rap or whatever, but like, I mean, he's like the second like richest hip hop artist like in the world. Like he's like worth almost like $1 billion. So I mean, he's doing pretty well. So I mean, I really can't say anything too bad about him. I mean, he's a little bit of a weirdo, but hey, so am I. So let's get into like his actual singing parts. So this is the intro. I'm back where I belong. I never felt so strong. I feel like there's nothing I can't try. And if you feel me, put your hands high. And if you ever lost a light before, this one's for you. And you, the dreams are for you. So he's kind of back, and he's like a New Yorker. So I think, you know, he's probably back in New York, and he feels a little bit like, you know, he belongs here. He, you know, in this, you know, in New York City, it's just like this crazy, you know, there's so much going on all the time, and he kind of feels like he's kind of still and maybe like at peace a little bit in terms of like all this chaos that's going on around him. And he just feels like he's on top of the world and nothing can stop him. And he's basically saying like, if you feel that way, then join me. Like, you know, let's do this. So I think that's kind of cool. If you've ever lost someone important in your life, then this song is for you. Like that's who he's kind of clearly dedicating this song, because he knows that struggle, you know, just as much as, you know, anyone else has gone through this. And I think that this is clearly he's finished his grieving. I think that he's kind of moving on and he's ready to like let the past go and just like move on with like his life and, you know, conquer, you know, everything that he's made to conquer. And then he's also saying that these dreams are for you. Like if you're still dealing with like death or you're still dealing with loss in your life, you know, he's kind of like, keep your head up. Like, this is for you. I've got your back. Like, you're going to end up just like me one day. Just listen to this song. And I think that's what he's trying to say. So let's get into verse 1. So I hear the tears of a clown. Ugh, I hate that song. I always feel like they're talking to me when it comes on. Another day, another dawn, another Keisha, nice to meet ya. Get the math, I'm gone. What am I supposed to do when the club lights come on? It's easy to be Puff, but it's hard to be Sean. What if my twins ask why I ain't married to their mom? Damn, how do I respond? So he feels like the topic of basically like the Smokey Robinson and the Miracles song, Tears of a Clown, which I never really like. I mean, I've always known that song, but I don't think I've ever like really listened to the lyrics before, like I did, you know, when I was listening to, you know, researching for this song. And I was like, oh wow, this is actually like a pretty sad song. But I mean, it's a great song. It's a classic, absolutely. Um, so I mean, he's basically, the song is basically just about like how you put on this like clown face to like seem like you're happy, but like really like when you're alone by yourself, like the tears of a clown, like you're just crying and sad. So it's kind of sad, but I'm guessing that that's kind of like how he, like as we see kind of in this song, we see that there's kind of like he's like moving, like he's changing like as the song's kind of moving forward, and he's being more positive, and he's like in it to win it, and like he kind of starts off like self-doubting himself a little bit, and then he kind of like is like, no, let's do this, like at the end. So it's interesting. So yeah, I mean that's it, and I think that that's a pretty common feeling for a lot of people actually. Every day is just another day. Meets another girl. Um, and the term Keisha is apparently just like, I don't know if it's um, his term or like his gangs, or not gang. I don't mean it like a gang, but like his like groups way of saying like just another girl is just like another Keisha or whatever. But apparently his sister's name is Keisha, so I thought that was kind of funny. Like maybe she was once, I don't know, a friendly lady. Let's say that. Yep. And he just was saying like, ugh, like this is another Keisha, like whatever, just another girl, another day, like, all right, I'll have your number. Like it's just too easy. Like it's not even like a challenge anymore. It's just like he's involved in like this sort of partying and like, random hookups and whatever. And like he's kind of just like, he's almost bored of this life that he's kind of talking about, and he's ready to change. So it's easy to be the person that everyone thinks you are, but it's not always being who you really are, like who your true self is. So I think that's kind of what he's saying. Like, it's hard to be Sean. It's hard to be like, who I really am, not just like my stage name, somebody that's in like the public eye. So he obviously has to like, when he says that when the lights come on in the club, it's a whole different story. Like that's when you see like everyone's true self. They're not in the dark anymore. They're not hiding a little bit. They're not, under whatever influence. Like this is it. Like this is like the stark truth, I guess. And then Puffy actually talks about some of his kids, and he actually has 6 kids, but his youngest 2 are twin girls, and he's not married to any of the kids' moms. And I read somewhere, I was trying to find out like how many like women were involved. If there's 6 kids, like I don't know if there's like 6 different women, or if he was with like someone like in a relationship or whatever. But I read an article where he said like, he obviously wasn't married to any of their moms, so it was a plural. So I mean, obviously there's more than one for these 6 kids, which is totally fine. I mean, he seems like a great dad, so yeah, you do you, man. So yeah, anyways, he basically just wasn't feeling that good about himself, and he's like basically talking about that in this song, and he's just never really been ready to commit. And I think that he's kind of like nervous, like how do you tell this to like your kids that mom was a hoe or whatever, or she was great ass, or like whatever it is. But like how do you tell that to like your kids when you're trying to be such a good dad? Yeah, I mean that's like an adult discussion. It's hard to even wrap your head around that as adults. So it's definitely difficult if you have like younger kids and you're trying to like explain like, okay, mommy and daddy aren't actually together. We love each other, in different ways. But I don't know what his story is. I don't know how he loves his the ladies that are involved, his baby mamas, I guess, essentially. I think some of his kids are like fully grown. I think they're in their 20s, but I think he has the youngest 2. I think are like 10, 12. They're like young teenagers. So yeah, I don't really know why that was relevant, but hey, let's keep going. What if my son stares with a face like my own and says he wants to be like me when he's grown? Shit, but I ain't finished growing. Another night, the inevitable prolongs. Another day, another dawn. Just tell Keisha and Teresa I'll be better in the morn. Another lie that I carry on. I need to get back to the place where I belong. So, what if his son, and like I said, I was looking at all these pictures and looking into articles trying to figure out exactly who belonged to which mom, but I couldn't find that. But I took a look at some of like the pictures of like him and his children, and there was one boy that really stood out, and I was like, wow, that guy is like a spitting image of Puff Daddy. I wonder if they call him like Daddy or Diddy. Like that'd be weird, right? I don't know. I guess that makes sense, but yeah, I just thought like there's particularly one boy that looked like a lot like him. I'm not saying that the other ones do not, but like there was just one and I was like completely you knew whose son that was. So yeah, and he just kind of wants to like have the same lifestyle. So I think that he's kind of like confronted, like if there's this child that he loves so much, it's his kid, and then it's almost like looking in a mirror, like looking at young Puff Daddy or P Diddy or whatever, Sean Combs, whatever. It's almost like looking at like in a mirror, and you kind of have to like deal with like how do you tell your kid, like he's kind of says like shit at the end, right? And he's kind of like embarrassed a little bit, like in like his voice and his tone, embarrassed or like living regrets, and like how can he say no to what his son is asking if he wants to be just like him, but then he's like, you don't want to go through that, but I think he's kind of like dealing with like that kind of internal struggle as well. Like he doesn't know whether to let his son try to be like him. In no way is he ever going to have the same experiences. Like that just seems like an impossibility because of who these kids belong to. But I mean, they could get into some trouble, I'm sure, and make some great rap or do whatever you need to do, get involved in street life. But they're never going to have that same background, I think, is what, obviously, if he's like the second richest, like, hip hop artist of all time, then, yeah, these kids are going to do okay. Anyways, that's just what I was trying to say with that. And, like, he's kind of saying, like, well, I'm not even finished. Like, how can you start, like, taking after what I'm doing if I'm not even done? Like, he's not ready to retire. He's not ready to give up. He's going to keep going. He's going to keep growing. He's, like, at this point in his life, he's like, no. He's like, this is not it for me. Like, I'm going to keep going. I think that's pretty great. It's pretty admirable. And yeah, I think that's good. And on Genius, I saw somewhere, well, I guess I saw it on Genius, that people were talking about the reference to the Kesha song, Wake Up in the Morning Feeling Like P. Diddy. So I think that that's kind of, I think that's kind of like the reference that he's making back to it, and that song did come out like the same year, earlier in the year. So I mean, it kind of makes sense that it's like a reference to that, but maybe not necessarily. But why not? Yeah, and I think that that's kind of like she's. If he's talking about that, then Kesha was just kind of like, oh, whatever, like, I'm going to live the life, I'm going to drink and have a party, I'm going to have so much fun, I'm going to be just like P. Diddy. But, P. Diddy's kind of like, oh, I don't want that. Like, that's not really what my life is like. Like, he's kind of, like, pretty sad, right? Like, he's kind of, nope, that's not what my life is. And he needs to just kind of, like, go back to, like, where he belongs, and that's, basically it. He wants to feel better. He wants to be better than just that, like, partying, crazy guy that, comes across as, like, the fun guy to have at a party when really, like I said, he goes home and cries, which is very sad. And then we have the hook again with Skylar Grey. I'm coming home, tell the world I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday. I know my kingdom awaits, and they've forgotten my mistakes. I'm coming home, tell the world I'm coming home. There's not really anything new there. So let's go to verse 2. A house is not a home. I hate this song. Is a house really a home when your loved ones is gone? And Blank's got the nerve to blame you for it. And you would have took the bullet if you saw it. But you felt it and still feel it. And money can't make up for it or conceal it. So a house is not a home, is kind of like a sad, melancholy kind of a song by Dionne Warwick, or performed by Dionne Warwick, and it was later covered by Luther Vandross. Um, Personally, I prefer the Dionne Warwick version, but they are both great. Um, can't hate on either of them. Uh, so like listening to this song obviously makes him feel kind of sad, and he's kind of like, ugh, whatever. And like, if he's that rich, he probably has a whole bunch of houses, but maybe he doesn't necessarily have a home, or he doesn't have something that feels like a home. Um, I think that's kind of like what his issue is when he thinks of that song. Um, yeah, because there's just no family and friends, and then like people are kind of criticizing Biggie's death. Clearly, and daring to say that like it was his own fault almost. And he knows that like I think he knows in his heart that like Biggie knows wherever he is, that Puff Daddy would have taken that bullet for him, like absolutely in a second, no problem, no questions asked. Like we all know that. Um, but yeah, there's nothing that Puffy can do to make up for it, and like nothing replaces him. Because Biggie was the one that got shot, and Biggie was the one that felt it and feels it, even his pain. And I think that like Puff Daddy is also saying that like he feels the pain, but he didn't feel it firsthand, obviously. Yeah, and I just thought, like basically, he just misses his best friend. Um, and then the conceal it, I thought was like an interesting choice of words, because you can't conceal a gun, you can conceal a gun. And maybe like the way it was concealed when they killed Biggie, or maybe Puff feels like he needs to keep a concealed weapon on him now because of that, because of what had happened. And I think that also he says, and money can't make up for it or conceal it. And I think that, like even if he throws money at like this problem, at this case, um, you know, it's not going to help, because it's, I guess it's sort of concealed, I guess. um, so let's keep going. But you deal with it and you keep ballin'. Pour out some liquor, playboy, and keep ballin'. Baby, we've been living in sin because we've been really in love, but we've been living as friends. So you've been a guest in your own home. Um, it'll, it's time to make your house a home. Pick up your phone. Come on. So he's just sort of saying that he's been going through the motions, and he hasn't really stopped to deal with like his emotions and everything, his pain that he's feeling. He keeps spending money. He keeps distracting himself all these other ways with alcohol or drugs or whatever partying that he's like up to, and he's obviously bawling. But I think that he's also kind of like bawling a little bit, like he's crying. Again, he's sad. um, so I thought that was kind of interesting. And pour out some liquor, which is also like in reference to a Tupac song, Thug Life. When he talks at the very beginning, he pours out liquor for his friends. And I think that that's like, I don't know if that's necessarily like a reference to Tupac, or if it's just, a common thing that's done. I mean, I feel like everybody does it, pours booze out, for like lost loved ones or whatever. Like if they're having a celebration or a drink or a funeral. I've been to a funeral where I've taken shots because, it's what the person would have wanted. And it's just, I think that's kind of cool that you can just do that and like, one for you, bud, so I mean, I think that's pretty nice. So I think that's what he's trying to do, and I think that again, it is so like also like a reference to Tupac as well, just to like make that clear. So obviously he's drinking to kind of I think maybe to deal with some of the pain that he's feeling, and also because he's missing Biggie, and he's just pouring out the drink for them, even just a little bit on the floor, on the ground, whatever you're doing. And he talks about living in sin and obviously like, sex out of wedlock and everything else. And it makes sense considering that he's got 6 kids and he's not married to anybody. So him and his lady are in love, obviously, but they're maybe they're not living together and they're living, like friends, like they're living separately, but they still love each other and they're really in love with each other. And I think that he's kind of like, it's time to like make your house a home, like pick up the phone, like let's do this. Like, he's kind of like ready to like, he's ready to make that, house his home. He wants to have a family. He wants to have, maybe like a wife, and have people like all around him. And I think he wants to like make his home more homey. And I don't mean that in like a hey homie kind of guy, kind of thing either. But I mean, he wants to make it like a loving home. I think that's all it is. And yeah, he's ready to not live with any regrets. He's ready to commit and he's ready to like do this. So yeah, that was the end of verse 2. Again, we have the hook with Skylar Grey. I'm coming home, blah, 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 blah. You know it by now. And so let's go to verse 3. Okay, ain't no stopping us now. I love that song. Whenever it comes on, it makes me feel strong. I thought I told ya that we won't stop till we back cruising through Harlem. These old blocks. It's what made me, saved me, drove me crazy, drove me away, and then embraced me. So he loves the song Ain't No Stopping Us by McFadden and Whitehead, which is, it's interesting to some of his songs, like in each song he's listening to a different song, or each verse he's listening to a different song. And they're all like songs from like the 60s, 70s. Yeah, and they're all, he's given some props. They're all African American, artists as well. So I think that he's kind of like drawing on their inspiration and like making like, almost the next generation like look into like their music and see, that they're great as well. And if you don't know Smokey Robinson, Dionne Warwick, and McFadden and Whitehead, go check them out. They're all great. Those are all great artists. And Luther Vandross at the same time. If you haven't checked him out, go do that. And have like an evening of throwbacks and just, check them out. You're going to find some that you're probably going to love. So yeah, let's keep going. So even in death, there's nothing that can stop them. And I think that he's talking about like him and Biggie again. And obviously, like, him and, Biggie's spirit, I think, he's obviously not with Biggie. And he talks about, like, how they, they're just going to be back driving through Harlem and they're going to see, like, probably have a lot of throwback memories and, lots of places that mean something to them, maybe like good or not. Obviously, I'm guessing there was a lot going on. And he talks about how, like, this neighborhood made him who he is today. And not because, like, I think that he probably did do some bad things, but I think that's, he made me, saved me, and drove me crazy. So obviously, like, I think that the city is what helped him, and I think that the city is kind of what pushed him away at the same time, in different times, in different ways. So I think that he's kind of dealing with that, like his community. I think that, obviously he was social and he's a fun guy. He was out partying, da-da-da-da. So I'm sure he has, like, a lot of friends, and a lot of people who look up to him in his, hometown. So I think that's kind of, like, what's going on. And, like, community is also, like, what helps make a home. I think, like, if you don't feel at home where you are, then you're never going to feel like it's your home, but I think that that's kind of what he's saying here. He's like, I'm going to go back and it's going to be my home and it's going to feel great. And it's like a big loving hug, like, come back, obviously. And there was a lot going on back then. So they forgave me for all of my shortcomings. Welcome to my homecoming. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Lots of fights, lots of scars, lots of bottles, lots of cars, lots of ups, lots of downs. Made it back, lost my dog, miss you big. And here I stand, a better man. Thank you, Lord. Thank you all. So, I mean, he's basically saying that his community, his peers, they've forgiven him, like, for whatever mishaps, it's probably long forgotten. And, like, this song kind of turns out to be, like, a celebration of his, like, new life. He's kind of, like, letting go, but still, like, holding on. Like, he obviously has a lot of grief and a lot of sadness, and he's like, I'm over with that. Like, that's done with, I'm gonna find like my happy place, and which I think is very important. Find your happy place, and he's gonna keep going. He's gonna like motivate himself, or I guess he is motivated. Obviously, at this point, he's putting this album out, right? So, I mean, this is 2010. Let's go back to 2010. Um, so I think that's just what he's talking about. He's ready to like kick some ass, take some names, do whatever he's got to do, but not in a violent kind of way. Um, so there's obviously there's lots of this happened, but he's looking forward. And there's good and bad points in his life here. He's lost his dog, and I think that's kind of, we obviously know what it is, but I think it's also like, if you ever lose a dog, like I feel like that's like, it's almost like a part of your family. Or it is a part of your family. It's not almost, it is a part of your family. And it's like, you don't know what happened to him. If your dog just ran away, and like, you're going to feel heartbroken. But I think he's obviously talking about the notorious B.I.G. At this point. He says miss you big, so it's pretty clear. And I think he means like dog as in like D-A-W-G, D-O-G-G, whatever, like Snoop Dogg, like that. And so like, and also if you didn't know already, or maybe you just never knew, or this is like your first time, like, learning anything about Puff Daddy, if you don't know anything about him, like him and Biggie were like the bestest of all bestest friends. Like they had each other's backs. They were like literally brothers, like they were pretty tight. So, yeah, just in case you didn't already know, I suppose I should have mentioned that more, but I feel like you kind of figured it out by now. Um, yeah, and he came through the fire, basically, and has, like, made it to the other side. There's positive. He felt there was a lot of crap that he had to go through, but he's at a better place. And he feels positive and ready to move on, move up, and, do whatever. And he's a better man at this point in his life, and probably a better father, but a better person. He's ready to have a relationship. He's ready to do all the right things. He's ready to build a home. Like he's ready to, he's at that level where he's done with his partying and his grief and everything else, and he's just ready to move on and be a good guy. And he basically thanks everybody. Like, I'm assuming he's talking about his fans and like his family, his friends, like the people that supported him. And he thanks God, of course, like he's, thanks everybody that helped him keep afloat, basically. So that's pretty much it. I think we have, at the end, there's, we have the Skylar Grey. I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday. I know my kingdom awaits, and they've forgiven my mistakes. I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. So, yeah, I mean, I think it starts off sad, and I think it kind of, changes, and it becomes more of like a positive song. And like, it really is just like a lovely song to listen to. It's a beautiful song. Like, it isn't quite a meaningful song. Whether or not this story or his story necessarily like means something to you, like you can take something from his song and from his story. I think that, if ever, I feel like we all go through like, losing someone at some point in our lives. So, even if you're 80 and that's the first time you've ever like lost somebody, and you want to listen to this song and you're like, oh yeah, like it made sense, like it connected with me, like, why not? Like that's the whole point. And he's like clearly drawing that, music is, something that he falls back to, something that inspires him, something that makes him feel, because he's literally talking about 3 different songs in this song. And like, a lot of them are like old school songs, like I said, 60s and 70s. So, I mean, he's kind of dealing with music, in his own way. And I think that that's kind of like what he's saying. Like, he's like, all right, let's do this. I'm going to change it up. So, I mean, obviously music, art, it all has an impact on you and like how you're feeling, and can help you. If you're creating any sort of art, if you're writing poetry, or sculpting, you're playing the piano, whatever you're doing, like that gets like your emotions out. And I think that's great, if you can like have that outlet to do that. I mean, even if you're like not like the best, do it anyways. Do it because it makes you feel good. That's it. So yeah, I also just wanted to like mention, I feel like at this point, like maybe like, you know, Puff Daddy has gone through like, you know, obviously some therapy, or like, you know, he's obviously dealt with it. Maybe he wrote in a journal. Maybe he did a whole bunch of things. Like, I don't know what he did, you know, for his grief process and what he did to overcome everything. But I think that he's like obviously at the point now. I mean, he's killing it, basically. I did want to mention, because I watched the music video as well, of course, and you know, it is quite like a moving video. And like, you know, he's there, he's telling his story, his struggle, and then it's like this desert and everything's dry and it's like difficult, and it kind of looks like a little post-apocalyptic. I'm guessing that's what it's supposed to be. And then there was like these two ladies, and I was like, well, who are these girls? And I was like, well, who, if Skylar Grey isn't in the music video, but Skylar Grey is listed on the track, I'm like, then who are these two girls? So I had to find out who they were, because they were singing in the music video, and I was like, I'm so confused. Who's who? Who's singing? So apparently it is still Skylar Grey. She still is featured, obviously, but like in the music video, it shows Kalena Harper and Dawn Richard, with some backgrounds by Casey, like that's, I don't even know. They were just like extra like background vocals. So I wasn't really sure which parts of like the songs, like the lady parts, the lady parts of the song, like are theirs. I don't know who was singing what exactly. If there's like 4 women on this, I wasn't sure. Yeah, let me know if you guys know for sure who was singing what part, or like, because I was just finding like mixed messages throughout. So I mean, that's pretty much it for me. I will mention now, I mean, that's pretty much the song. So if you guys have any song suggestions that you want me to do, you know, in future videos, where you want me to break down lyrics for you, definitely leave suggestions down below in the comments. Don't forget, you can follow me also on Twitter. I am over there if you are interested in like joining Twitter for the first time, probably. I don't know. It's a weird world in Twitter. I don't really know who's on there, and I feel like nobody really pays attention to you. But hey, that's just me. I would like to thank our Patreons, Linda Williams, Mozart, and Super Old School 1994. Thank you so much for supporting us, for supporting me. So if you guys want to check out Patreon as well, all the information is down below, and you get early access to our videos, and you get entered to win, or entered each month to possibly win a raffle, where you can put in any sort of songs that you want us to review, and we shall pick one a month and do it. So that's an easy way for you to get a little bit more of a pull on like what songs and what videos you want us to make, what you want us to talk about, and what albums you want to see and learn about, if you haven't already. So I think that's pretty much it for me, guys. So I guess don't forget to like, if you didn't like it. Yeah, don't forget to like it if you've already made it this far. Subscribe if you're not already. And comment down below if you guys want to see anything else. Like I said, just leave it down below and I will add it to the list, and we'll get to them at some point. So thank you guys so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye!